about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So since the pandemic, we have noticed attention deficit hyperactivity disorder diagnoses, requests for medications just skyrocket. And I had blamed COVID. I had blamed the brain fog that some people are getting from COVID or from the vaccines. I also blame that people are bored. And so when people are bored, they seem to look for something to motivate them. And these medications that we use for attention deficit many of them are stimulants. And they seem to, shall we say, kind of kick in or trigger our epinephrine, sometimes our dopamine, to get us moving. And it helps us focus more. And I've had many individuals say, well, I have attention deficit disorder. And I go, why? Who diagnosed you? What happened? And they said, well, I took my buddy or I took my family member's medication. And it worked. Well, anybody taking that medication will notice it works. And so when they say, yeah, well, if the medicine works, that means I have that disease or I have that illness or I have that. Well, no, these medications will all kind of act that way. Well, the numbers keep rising, and we're already, 5 years after the initial COVID start? More than that, because I really think it got leaked in August. I think we're almost at year 6, because COVID cases were in America by November of 2019, and it got leaked, I believe, from the Wuhan lab in August of 2019. But ADHD diagnoses and prescriptions still going up, even despite the shortages of the medications. So now the media is saying, look, we have somebody else at fault for this, TikTok. They say TikTok and these social media apps with their influencers are driving this significant surge in ADHD diagnoses. And that when you see people on Instagram or TikTok or these influencers say, look, now, let me teach you about ADHD. I have it, and these are my symptoms. Now, many individuals are like, oh, okay, well, then I must have it too. Now, scientists are saying there is a lot of misinformation and that users should approach some of these, shall we say, symptoms and medical discussions by non-medical professionals online with caution. And scientists are saying that the accuracy and reliability of content can vary significantly. That's an understatement. Now, a lot of celebrities share their battles, and they go online, and because ADHD allows you to get good SEO, search engine optimization, and a lot of shall we say, presence on social media feeds when you hashtag it, everybody and their mother wants to talk about it. And they say that the amount of adults, the amount of numbers have risen exponentially. There was a study. Experts at Aston University and University of Huddersfield discovered prescriptions had risen 25.17 items per 1,000 people in 2019 and 2010 to 41.55 items. That's what they call it back in England in 2023-2024, which increased close to 20%. But the surge was as high as 51% in Birmingham and Solihull. By comparison, Norfolk and Waveney, these are places within the Great Britain, logged an increase of 5%. Now, that doesn't mean these are true diagnoses. These are people asking for the drugs, asking for the prescriptions. Now, when you diagnose attention deficit, there's a whole bunch of criteria, which we discussed. In terms of attention, do you lose things? Do you have trouble staying on task? Is it starting to interfere with your relationship with work? Are you having trouble multitasking? Do you want to not finish and maybe start something else? In terms of hyperactivity, do you fidget a lot? Do you move a lot? Do you answer a question before it's even asked? Do you get bored quickly? The average person can say yes to a lot of that. I mean, what show was I was watching Cobra Kai. You know, the latest season is boring. Yeah, I'm getting bored. Also, I multitask because I don't want to waste time just sitting there watching TV. I want to get stuff done while the TV's on. Maybe I am hyper. That doesn't mean I necessarily need a medication. But you have a lot of individuals who have not been at work. They got this email from the government saying you need to come back to work. And they're like, how the hell do I sit at my desk for 8 hours now when I've been working from home, a little bit here, a little bit there, running around, playing with the dog? So they're asking for medications. Or they're just bored. A lot of people get high because they're bored. A lot of people might use these medications to get them out of boredom. But you really do, sadly, have individuals with true attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And these people struggle. And what's been very frustrating is those individuals are now struggling to get their medication because everybody and their mother is using these medications because they think they have perceived ADHD. And I get it. You could read up and people do this. They will read, before they call telemedicine, they will read up on their, strep throat, bronchitis, etc. And they will read verbatim. Some of them even mispronouncing what they're reading, right? And then they'll say, well, yeah, this is what I have. And I go, look, in your own words, what symptoms are you having? Now, most telemedicine platforms will not give you attention deficit hyperactivity medication because many of them are stimulants and controlled substances. So not going to happen. But BMJ Mental Health, and the scientist who wrote the study, said social media was likely behind the substantial rise. And it's true. I mean, look at what's been going on with these weight loss drugs. Once people found out that Oprah was on Ozempic, wow, everybody wanted it. And then a big problem we had is people with diabetes couldn't get their medication because everybody was trying to get it for weight loss. So these influencers are influencers. They influence you. But you need to be aware that once you start these medications, they might be hard to stop. They also might be difficult to get. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. If at all you miss any of our shows, go to drdaliah.com. So all hands are on deck in the Dominican Republic looking for pre-med student Sudiksha Konanki, the 20-year-old who has been missing since last week when she went with, I think, 5 girls, other college students, to the Hotel Rio Republica in Punta Cana for spring break. Now, this hotel is a 5-star hotel. There's cops, soldiers, officials on this frantic hunt to look for her. From what we understand, there's a 300-strong search team. According to Daily Mail, there's drones, sniffer dogs, and Navy divers that are scouring the area. Now, this is much different than from what we heard a day or two ago, where they felt she drowned, and there was some talk of the investigation not continuing. America and her family in America, from what I understand, has been putting pressure. And so we're being told that there is a large force now looking for her. She has not been seen since the early hours of March 6th. I think the last time she was seen on camera was like 5, 6 in the morning. It looked like she was taking selfies with a gentleman. There looked like there was a little bit of maybe swaying from them drinking, but I can't tell if she was inebriated or not. But FBI, from what I understand, has also been providing behind-the-scenes assistance as well. Many Americans have been also offering their private investigative services because they want to help the Dominican Army, Navy commandos, civil rescue teams, and forensic experts to help find her. Now, the hotel is still open. It's spring break. People are still enjoying the beach. Yeah, it blows my mind how people are just not fazed by this. You see individuals drinking and still having fun and partying it up, and there is somebody who is possibly being trafficked right now, tortured, stuck, trapped somewhere, or dead. But spring breakers, they're on spring break. And so, when you look at these images, it looks like nothing's happening. But from what we understand, there is still a search going on. The problem is it's been over 6 days. Don't stop. It sounds unlikely. That's been the working theory, that she drowned because the person she was with, who is now deemed a person of interest, not necessarily a suspect, but the gentleman she was last seen with, apparently he said, and his story kept changing, but they went for a swim. He got trashed around by the waves, got thrown back on the beach. He vomited. He found one of the chairs to lie on, and then he passed out and fell asleep. And then he just went back to his room and thought she might have gone back to her room too or whatever. So that's where that theory came from. Well, maybe she drowned. Yet, if she did, her body then would have, come up on shore. And thank God they have not found a body yet. I'm hoping she's alive. But unfortunately, it's sounding more and more like she was taken. She's a pre-med student. She was last seen on hotel CCTV heading towards the beach at about 4:15 a.m. with her friends and 2 guys. One was looking unsteady on his feet. Not really easy footage to look at. Very kind of eerie. But Josh Ribe, 24 years old, is a former Iowa high school wrestling champion. And police identified him as the one who had his arm around her and who apparently she went to the beach with. He says he threw up and fell asleep. Now, that could be very easily proven. You could easily see the throw up unless it got washed away, but I'm sure there could be, evidence of that. And then I'm sure they could tell if it's his or hers. But right now, there's a lot of questions. Now, Ribe went back inside his hotel by 9:55 a.m. So there's about 4.5 hours unaccounted for. They say he is not currently considered a suspect, and he is cooperating with investigators. It's just, how could he not know? Was somebody really that drunk? And then also what makes matters a little odd is there was a power outage that knocked out the AC units, that prompted multiple guests to head out to the beach because it was really, really hot. And I think also it might have knocked out some of the TV sources. So now we lose more footage. And there was this power outage that happened. The parents of Sudishka, very distraught. They last heard from her during an 8 p.m. phone call on the evening of March 5th. So it was hours before she went missing. They have begged authorities to widen the search zone and take seriously that she might have been kidnapped. She said it's 4 days. If she was in the water, she would have likely been strewn to shore. She's not found, so we're asking them to investigate multiple options like kidnapping or abduction. And, this is a pre-med student who just went with her friends, didn't travel alone. She was with her friends, but somehow the friends that she got separated. Now, and I don't have a daughter, but I have sons, and I've given them, very similar advice I would give a daughter. But I would reiterate to my daughter, if I had one, and I've reiterated this to patients, where even if you are with a group of individuals and you're starting the evening out with this group of individuals, have a backup plan if these individuals go away or decide to hook up with somebody. One of the reasons why I was assaulted years ago was because my ride, whoever I was with, ended up having the ability to be with somebody. And so somebody else offered me a ride who I knew. And sadly, that was, not the best choice for me. And so you might be thinking you're doing everything safe because you have your group of friends, you're with people, you're not going to a foreign country alone. And then things happen. Somebody gets tired, somebody gets sick, somebody drinks too much. If your friends drink and they, get to the point where they can't, be reliable witnesses or drive you home or ensure that you're safe, you're alone. And then we always meet somebody else, right? When you're spring breaking, there's always somebody from another school. Are you verifying that? Nowadays, people can verify with Instagram and look people up. But, back then, somebody said, oh, yeah, I'm from Iowa State, or I'm from Rutgers, or I'm from UNR. And you're like, oh, great. Oh, that's cool. And then they could be lying. And it could be just somebody who's scamming you. And I'm not saying this gentleman could have really been just another college student. And somebody saw that he was drunk, he was vomiting, so they went and, grabbed her without him knowing. Who knows? He is a person of interest, not necessarily a suspect. But obviously things are highly suspect because he was the last person she was with before she went missing. But again, we reiterate to everybody, when you go to a foreign country, luckily it looks like the Dominican Republic is now being very, very, and they might have always been, but it looks like they do have, hundreds of people working on this. And they are trying to find her, and they should. It's in Dominican Republic's best interest to know this, because the last thing they want is a reputation of young women going down there and being abducted or dying. Nobody's going to go down there to vacation. So they need to look like they're on top of it and figure this out. But if you are going to another country, their investigative process may be very different than America's. America also has in another country's investigation, and realize that once you leave America, things are going to be a lot harder. Now, these are spring break destinations. Americans go to these places, but where was it where a bunch of people got arrested because they had gun shells in their carry-on bag that they forgot to clean out? And were I forget which, was that Dominican Republic also? Or Bahamas? I have to look that up. But, when you're in another country, it's another country. It doesn't matter if Americans go there all the time. It doesn't matter if it's a 2 or 3 hour flight. It doesn't matter if they have American companies there. It's another country. Different laws, different rules. And if you think you have the same protections, you don't. As I've said before, when my husband was living in Cancun teaching scuba diving after college, and he got into a car accident, he goes to the hospital and they wouldn't even touch him until he emptied out his pockets and paid them cash in full to start. I don't think he had that much money. I don't know what else he had or how he was able to do that. But and he got limited treatment. It's not like in America. And you need to be aware of that. I can't tell you how many people will call telemedicine companies from another country saying, I'm sick. Where do I go? What do I do? Treat me over the phone. I go, I can't. You're in a foreign country. We aren't legally allowed to treat you in another country. I hope they find her. I really do. 1-877 Dr. Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. All right. So some of you have asked about beef tallow and rendered fat. I had to look it up. I'm that's not something that I'm in the western part of the country. From what I understand, if you live in the South, you all know what it is. But we don't use that term a lot where I am. So I had to look it up. And so beef tallow has gotten in the news because of Steak and Shake, the restaurant, the burger chain, has been lauded and commended for changing from vegetable oils to cooking their shoestring fries in beef tallow. So it is a fat source. And it is, I apologize here. It is it's beef fat that was rendered. And then I had to look up what rendered mean. All right. Rendered means. So it is it's fat. It's beef fat, but, it still has fat. It's triglycerides. It's a saturated fat. All right. But it is made by rendering beef fat. So rendering, okay, means to heat it up, melt it, get rid of impurities. So rendering is taking raw fat from beef or pork, making it shelf stable by evaporating the water, which could limit the shelf life. And then you melt it, strain it, to get rid of impurities and make it more of a purer fat. Now, is that healthy? Well, they found it to be maybe safer than some of these vegetable oils, but it's still fat. It still has high saturated fat. And so, we've talked about saturated fat versus unsaturated fat. Saturated fat, they're solid at room temperatures. We see them in animal products. Unsaturated fats are usually liquid in room temperature, found in plant sources. And unsaturated fats seem to be known as more heart healthy, whereas saturated fats are known to raise your bad LDL cholesterol. And so unsaturated fat you could get from avocados, you could get from nuts, That's why we keep recommending unsaturated fats or like olive oil, things like that. So, when I heard that Steak and Shake is using beef tallow, I surmised that that was a beef fat product, might be safer from, canola oil and things like that, but it's still fat. And we fry, I like air fryers. Don't air fryers use less of that? And isn't that a more healthy? So I know a lot of people have been making jokes about RFK Jr. and him honoring Steak and Shake and endorsing what they did. And because they are starting to cook with 100% all natural beef tallow at all their locations, this is a great move because they're switching from vegetable oil. But, RFK Jr. has touted beef tallow as a healthier alternative to seed oils. And seed oils are in a lot of processed foods, but that doesn't necessarily mean Steak and Shake is 100% healthy. It doesn't mean that it's the healthiest choice. If you could eat a salad, that's better. But what RFK Jr. wants to do is take these baby steps and make these moves to getting rid of a bunch of the crap that we're eating. And if there are healthier alternatives, even though they may not be healthy in and of itself, they are a little healthier. It's a step in the right direction. Now, from what we understand, RFK Jr. has met with CEOs of General Mills, Kellogg, Kraft Heinz, J.M. Smucker to address food safety and ways where they could advance it and consumer trust. And so he had told Sean Hannity, people should be able to make their own choices. If you want to eat a donut or seed oils, you should be able to. You should be able to exercise informed choice. You should know what the product is, what's in your food, and what the health impacts are. That's all we're going to do. And he's right about that. He said, if you want to eat a Twinkie, he said this multiple times, you can eat a Twinkie. I know the media made it sound like he is going to get rid of Twinkies. He's not going to get rid of Twinkies. Twinkies will be there. But you have a right to know what the hell you're putting in your body. Now, are they going to ban certain dyes? Are they going to change some of the guidelines so the food isn't fluorescent? So the food doesn't have these dyes or preservatives that could cause harm? Yes, they will. And our foods will start looking different. They're going to start looking like European foods, which aren't as bright. Our cereals, they could glow across a room, whereas cereal in the UK, they look blander. Why? Because there's more rules on what sort of preservatives could be used. So yes, some of those foods might change. They may not be as delicious. I told you we had a friend in the Royal Air Force who was stationed in America for a few years. And I think it was like a birthday or it was some sort of potluck or whatever. So they told me to bring dessert, bring a cake or something. And I did. I went to the bakery, brought the cake. And he said, I usually can't eat American cakes. They're just too sweet. You guys put so much sugar in and he's not wrong. Pastries in Europe taste a lot different than in America because in America, they really overload the sugar and sugar is addictive. They do that on purpose. Do you really have to put that much sugar? In fact, if I eat some cake with frosting, I start getting a headache. It's that much sugar. You don't need to do that. According to the CDC, nearly 40% of the U.S. adult population is obese. That's going to be in the next few years, 50%. RFK Jr. says studies from Stanford and Harvard show mental illness, including anxiety and depression, is also related to food. He's right. If you change your diet, you could lose some of those diagnoses. He's not wrong. The more vegetables you eat, the better you feel. The more sugar you eat, the worse you feel. He also says that this generation of our kids is the first generation in 200 years that is going to have a shorter lifespan than their parents. He said, we are, letting these kids down, and there is a moral issue here. He said, and we need to start grappling with it because it's a moral issue. It's a financial issue. Healthcare costs are going to sink us, and the only way that we're going to solve it is by changing what we eat. He's not wrong. And I'm glad. This is why he's Health and Human Services Secretary. Even though I have always been, an advocate of somebody being in the healthcare field, being in that role, because look at Kathleen Sebelius, and that was complete a mess with Obamacare because she was a political science major and she just did whatever Obama wanted. But RFK Jr., he has been on his own advocating for us relooking at what we're doing and what we're putting in our kids. Nobody wants vaccines to go away, but we do like the idea that they're going to look at the science and look at the side effects and make sure there's a lot more transparency so parents can make better decisions. Why not? You know, this idea that, do as I say, not as I do is hopefully going to be gone during this administration. And if people want to know what are the side effects of something, what am I eating, what is going into my body, they should be allowed to. Same thing with cosmetics. Wasn't there a recent recall of, I think, a L'Oreal product because of benzene? These are things that are under the FDA, under the purview of HHS. And it's their responsibility to make sure that whatever we're putting on ourselves, we might think it's safe because it's over the counter, but it might not be safe. People can overdose on Tylenol. People can give themselves GI bleeds with ibuprofen and give themselves ulcers and kidney failure and heart failure. We have things over the counter. They're over the counter. But there needs to be much better education on what these over-the-counter medications can do. So I'm for transparency and education. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So when Trump started his presidency and introduced everybody to Doge, and people saw Elon Musk working closely with Trump, you heard people start to say, well, we need to boycott Teslas. We need to, after all these Democrats bought Teslas, right, to take part in the Newsom mandate and the electric vehicle mandate that Biden was hoping to have, where we cut fuel emissions and car emissions and, become Back to the Future 2 with flying cars and electric vehicles and all the other stuff they wanted to hopefully do in the future. After everybody was in love with Teslas, you saw this turn where I think, what was it? Sheryl Crow decides to sell her Tesla, and rather than donate the money to the homeless population or kids or, women who are trafficking victims, I guess she decided to donate the money to NPR. People could do whatever they wish, but, just try to be consistent with your messaging if you can. Well, now there have been a series of attacks on Tesla showrooms, charging stations, and Tesla vehicles. According to CNN, police across the United States are investigating these. And Trump says he's going to call these domestic terrorism. If you are attacking this company because Elon Musk is helping clean up the waste, fraud, and abuse, that's domestic terrorism, where there's this united effort to wreak havoc on an entity. I wonder if there's an argument for domestic terrorism for any sort of crime or murder or attacks or, well, that's a different conversation for a different day. But even though there's been some peaceful protests, there have been widespread reports of vandalism. Thank God, no reports of injuries. But this is a concern. The company is facing declining sales. Well, there's going to be declining sales of Tesla because, one, as I said last year, the wealthy people who bought a Tesla already bought one. So it's not something that you always seem to buy and upgrade. You could upgrade with software. And who is going to sell their used Tesla? You can't really sell their used Tesla. You might be able to turn it in. But seeing the market share increase when the average middle America can't afford an electric vehicle, let alone figure out where to charge it, especially if you live in an apartment. So we knew that the sales were going to go down. Elon Musk said they're going to increase supply and the prices is going to go down, and they are planning on selling more. It's just now that you don't have that pressure of being forced to buy one, especially if you live in California, although California is still kind of pressuring people. Fewer people are running to get one. There was a panic. And I even felt a little bit of that anxiety going, I'm not ready to buy another car. I'm still paying off on my current car. And also, after you saw what happened with the wildfires, and many of these homes just had to be left to burn because you couldn't douse the fire. And we saw Teslas in their garage. Somebody needs to be pretty honest about how much of these electric vehicles played a part in firefighters not being able to douse or control these fires. Because, boy, these wildfires were a little different than before. And what is one of the new differences? What's one of the new variables? Many of these Pacific Palisade homes had electric vehicles that were sitting in their garage. So on March 3rd, 7 charging stations in a mall outside Boston were set on fire. Charging stations set on fire. On Thursday, police outside Portland, Oregon responded to gunshots fired at a Tesla showroom at 1:45 a.m. Investigators say 7 shots were fired, damaging 3 cars and shattering windows. 1 bullet went through an office wall into a computer monitor. So, yes, this is domestic terrorism. If they're trying to scare individuals from going to work, and they are trying to make people scared of going to a Tesla showroom or to a Tesla charging station, that's domestic terrorism. Absolutely. Lucy Grace Nelson of Colorado faces a federal charge of malicious destruction of property for allegedly vandalizing a Tesla dealership in Loveland, Colorado. Nelson allegedly sprayed words including Nazi on vehicles and the windows of the store, threw Molotov cocktails during one of the incidents. According to police, she was arrested near the store February 24th with more Molotov cocktails inside her car. If she's convicted, she'll face 20 years in prison. Can't be doing this, people. Yeah, and listen, all right, I get that DOGE is shaking things up. For those of us who think there's waste, fraud, and abuse, and we're seeing what they're finding, we're pretty impressed. For those of you who are nervous about losing your job and do not like Elon Musk, yeah, I understand why you don't like him. But don't be going after his employees. Don't be going after people who bought a Tesla. Don't be going after, a lot of Democrats who are a part of possibly your party, if you are of the party that dislikes Elon Musk, right? They bought Teslas because that was the Democratic thing to do. And I, like I said, people want to hate. I said this earlier. This drive of hate, people always need somebody to hate. Now, this is why I love football season, because, you could hate the Cowboys or hate the Eagles or hate the Commanders, or they're not. No, now it's Washington. Is it Washington? No, it's the Commanders now. Yeah, people can hate whoever. Now, but don't let it manifest into anything unethical or violent. You could scream at the TV, "You suck." Okay, everybody wants to have that tribalism and feel like they're on a side and whatever. That's what's so great about sports. But no, that's not satisfying for people. They want to take it to another level. Now, many people are disliking what's happening with the Department of Education. We are having declining reading scores, proficiency scores in multiple grade levels. We are failing our kids, and we are spending billions on the Department of Education. So Lisa McMahon, who is now Education Secretary, has affirmed that mass layoffs are the first step towards shuttering the education department. She says, this directive to me clearly is to shut down the Department of Education, which we know will have to work with Congress to get that accomplished. Trump cannot shut it down. They have to work with Congress. And what they have to do is ensure that money going to the schools from a federal standpoint can still get to the schools, but the schools are going to have, or the local states, the local districts are going to have more control. Now, I saw what happened in my neck of the woods where parents were really, really frustrated with the local school district and the trustees and the school board meetings. I mean, you saw videos of school board meetings all across the nation where parents were really, really upset. And I don't know how these people keep getting voted in. And so I am hoping that the parents have a recourse if their local school district is not listening. But some of these states have options where parents can pull out of the public school system and go to private. And there's money for that. And there's options for them. Now, student aid operations for students with disability, free application for federal student aid forms or FAFSA, civil rights investigations, things like that, not going to be affected. The overhaul of the workforce, there's about 2,183 employees left. The department let go about 1,300. About 500, I think, took that deal where they early resign and get to still be paid through September. And then I think 66 were fired, dismissed. There's about half of the employees left, from what we understand. And they are going to keep, according to McMahon, she said, they wanted to make sure we kept all of the right people and the good people to make sure the outward-facing programs, the grants, the appropriations that come from Congress, all of that are being met. And none of that's going to fall through the cracks. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this happens. When Trump had campaigned say we're going to eliminate the Department of Education, everybody's like, yeah. How does that happen? How do states get more control over their own school districts? And that's what I think we're going to be seeing in the coming months. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.